You've been reading a book by Mel Robbins. Should we start there?
We can. Yeah, definitely.
So tell us about the book.
Okay.
Because that's going to inform the next probably 20 minutes to a half hour we talk about.
Yeah. It's been a really interesting, I've been doing it via audio because I do so many hours in the car, and it's been super interesting, and it's called The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. And I was seeing a lot of her posts come up, and I was thinking, oh, this is like, pseudo pop psych.
Yeah.
This is a bit interesting. And I think she made a post about narcissism, and I got a bit excited and I went, oh, I've got a few of those in my life. Let's have a look what she has to say. And I liked what she was saying, clicked on the link, started following her, and which led me to her book. And it's interesting, this let them theory is very simple in its takeaway, insofar as I understand it. It's basically stop wasting your life on the things you can't control, right?
Yeah.
And so therefore, if she uses this situation, she talks about being on an aircraft and she has to go away to do a conference, and she's speaking at a conference, and she knows she's got to have a voice in top shape to be talking for hours at a time for over a period of days. And there is a dude sitting behind her coughing his guts out on the plane. And she does that passive-aggressive thing. She looks behind herself into the crack in the seats and gives him the evil eye, and he continues coughing and he's not covering his mouth, and then she totally gets the shits until she stands up and she says to him, "Can you please cover your mouth and stop coughing?" Wants to be the bestower of, she's the boss of all coughing control in the world, right, on a plane. And she realised this poor dude behind her, he's obviously unwell. He can't control when a cough's going to come forward, and yet it was driving her insane. So it was like his coughing had just taken a dump in her brain, and she was fixating on it because she didn't want to get sick for this conference. So what she could do was, all that she could do in this situation was, as she describes, let them. She can't control his coughing. All she could control is her reaction to the coughing. So what she did was she put her headphones on, listened to music, and covered her own nose and mouth with her scarf until she got off the plane. And then she got off the plane. It wasn't like she was agitated for the rest of the day, but it drove her nuts for those couple of hours that she was on the plane. So she talks about that as, stop wasting your life worrying about things that you cannot control, I mean, we've talked about it before, Jonty, like that example of driving the car. You know how you get the shits with people pulling in front of you and you don't let them, and I just go, you're cruising, brother, or I wave them in or blow them kisses, and you just won't. You just drive up their ass and you won't let them in. Well, she would say, why worry about that? Why waste your precious creativity and intellect and emotional quotient worrying about shit you can't control? Just what's it to you if you just wave him in, let him in? Just let them. Let them be maniacs. Let them be narcissists. Let them think whatever they want to think, because you're not the boss of everybody's thought process. She talks about starting her own business and worrying what everybody's going to think. So she would agonise over a post that she would put up because she was desperately worried, oh, what are my friends going to think? What's my family going to think? What's everybody going to think? Are they going to like me? Are they going to hate me? Oh, what if I get all this hate? Oh, it's terrible. What are they going to think? It just occupied her brain to the point where she couldn't even start by posting. And she says, just post. So what? You can't control what anybody thinks about you. And nor should you bother, because they're in control of their thinking. And even the people that we love the most think often bad things about us. and often even say bad things about us. Even our friends might shit slam us to their other friends, but doesn't mean they don't love us. Doesn't mean they don't want to be in our family or love us anymore. It's just that everybody has control over their own thinking, and free ourselves from trying to control that.
Yeah.
And so she calls that the let them theory. She says, just let them think bad things about you. Oh, well, just let them. She describes it as being really freeing, and she finds it then she talks about family scenario where there's always that tricky family member, an auntie or an uncle or some dodgy member of the family that drives you nuts, right?
Yeah.
You think, oh, do I really have to go to that thing because that person's going to be there? She says, just let them. Let them be an irritating wonder. Let them have their opinionated view about all the things that drive you nuts about them. Just, as she says, let them be. Don't try and control them. Just let them.
Yeah, this is interesting because there's a lot of. I was thinking about my own experiences growing up, and when we were talking about this earlier, and have you? Because I certainly have. Have you experienced what it is like when you're unwilling to do this? So like, for example, spending more time thinking about how other people are going to perceive you than actually thinking about what you want to do with your own life. Is that like, is this a good place to take this conversation?
Yeah,
now?
it's definitely. It's exactly what she's talking about.
Yeah.
And she talks about you are in control of you.
Yeah.
You're not in control of anybody else. And by not allowing people and just letting them be who they need to be, you waste time and you don't actually spend time doing the things that you need to be spending your precious mind and your precious life on, because you're so busy worrying what everybody else is thinking about you that it stops you in your tracks.
Yeah. So like when I was in high school, I remember for a long period of time, and it sort of came and went, and I probably exacerbated by the fact that I went to 4 different schools across primary and high school. I did the same thing twice. I established friendships at one school and then moved for the last 2 years. So years 5 and 6, I went to a different primary school to K to 4, and same, I went to one high school for years 7 to 10, and then 11 and 12, I was at a different high school.
Is it because you were a brainy child and you went to brainy things?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah.
So you're already a geek, right?
Oh, and proudly so.
Yeah.
But high school is such if you let it, again, going back to let them, but like if you let high school be this, it can be a really complex time for, well, I mean, let's put 1,000 kids who are all exploding hormonally in one room together and see what happens, right? It's a hotbed of people trying to figure out what their identity is. And as a very socially anxious person, in reflection, I realized that I spent a lot of my teen years more scared of doing the wrong thing by other people than actually like forming my own identity and forming a person around who I want to be, and who, as a young Christian as well, who went to youth group and church my whole life, who I knew Jesus wanted to mold me into.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, but if I'm the cringy Christian kid at school, what does that mean? So I went through a phase of being like the edgy Christian who swears and like, but then you alienate your Christian friends and blah, blah, like, and you're spending all this time trying to micromanage how people are perceiving you instead of actually looking inwards and going, who am I?
Yes.
Who is Jonty?
You'd love this book.
I'm keen to read it. Yeah.
Absolutely right. And she talks very much about that, and it's so important to not try and micromanage everybody else, because you actually can't. Just be you and let others be them. And then there's more space to be you. Yeah, it's quite it feels quite simple when I talk about it, but it's hard to practice, isn't it? Because we all want to be liked.
Yes.
Don't we? We want to be liked. The thing I think I've realised is that in my corporate life, I may have said this before, and I apologise if I sound like a boring person. I should just let you have your thoughts about me anyway. Let you
Let them, yes.
That's it. In my corporate life, I had this perception that I was really well liked. I was in the gym. I was the gym lady. I provided a service for people. People had a really happy, bright time when they came to the gym. I taught classes. It was the fun time in the day for the corporates coming in. So they were leaving behind a busy, important schedule and taking time out for their health and well-being when I got to see them either before work, lunchtime or after work. So I had this perception that I was popular and I was well-liked. And I think that that's probably true. I was there for 33 years, so I think I must have been doing something quite right. But then I came into the church and I was expecting that I would be well-liked because I'm just that happy, bubbly, bright, kind person. And the thing I realised really quickly was that I gave people the shits and that I wasn't well liked. I was actually quite polarising, Jonty. And that for me at the age of 48 was actually quite hard for me to take on board. And I had to modify my natural way of being and change how I was to fit in. And what Mel says is that kind of sucks. I should have just let them and continued being me. But in the church structure in which I was, they're developing me and helping me form and grow, I had to kind of comply in a way and modify my boundaries and natural effervescence because it rubbed people the wrong way. I should have just let them think what they like. But I was busy trying to curate what they thought about me so that I could survive. I don't think that's well.